Hi everyone. Yep, it's me. I'm Joe Howell. Welcome to this live stream. It's the first one I've done in about 7 months, and I thought, well, it's about time I sorted this out and tried to do one. All right, so it is Sunday morning here in New Zealand. I guess it's probably Saturday in most of the rest of the world. I am just going to have a look here and share a bit of news whilst people are joining the live stream about what's been going on in the world of 360 cameras, useful technology, action cameras in the wee while. And the big news this week has been the GoPro Hero 9 coming this week. So what do we know in the leaks? It's probably going to be out sometime in the middle of this week, I'm thinking. And we know that it has a nice big front color screen now. We also know it's got 5K 30 frames per second video capable, which is going to be interesting. Who needs kind of 5K video in an action camera though? I think that's going to be an interesting proposition for people. See whether they've actually figured out who in the market might want something like that. But the interesting thing is that you're going to be able to get some really nice downscaled 4K that could actually look great. We'll have to wait and see. They've actually advertised that they've got a new Hypersmooth. They've upgraded it from this 2.0 to 3.0. We'll see what that looks like. And we also know that they've got a new Hyperlapse as well. It'd be interesting to see how that's going to Hyperlapse is not what they call it though. You know what I mean. Be interesting to see how they've improved that because it's pretty good as it is. But they're kind of again advertising it as gimbal-like. But they've been doing that for a while now, so I don't know how this is going to be any more gimbal-like than before. And now we can also use the GoPro as a webcam. And from what I understand, it's going to be backwards compatible. You're going to be able to use all your old, not maybe all, but maybe up to the Hero 6, Hero 5 as a webcam too. Now, the downside of what they've done is that it looks like they've broken the battery system. It looks like it's going to be about a 1700 milliamp hour rated battery, which is about 40% bigger than the previous batteries that you may be using. And in the Hero 8, you could use the Hero 7 and Hero 6 batteries. You wouldn't get as much battery life, but you could use them. They would fit. But now they've completely changed the size of the battery, dimensions of the battery. So any charges that you've got, any old batteries that you've got, you won't be able to use with the Hero 9. And that might actually hack off quite a few of the GoPro loyal customers that they have. But you can see why they've done it. I'm not sure how much battery time you would get out of a small battery trying to power 5K 30 frames per second video. All right, so that looks promising. The next bit of big news that I've heard this week and that you might have heard as well is that Insta360 put out a video last night saying that they were going to be putting out a big firmware update and app update coming for the Insta360 One R, and that is for all 3 versions of the Core Plus camera. So that's for the 4K version, the 1-inch version, and also for the 360 version too. And what they are trailing is that there are going to be 8 new features to come, and that's going to be really interesting, really exciting, and it's set up for release date on the 14th of September. And what I can tell you here now exclusively, first from me, is that I will be putting out a video with what I know about what's coming out immediately on release of those firmware updates and the app updates. So be sure to check in and see what I think about what's coming. And I might also have some other stuff coming for you soon. I will let you know at the end of this live stream. All right, so where are we? Oh, I got someone here. Hey, thanks, Richard. Nice to see you here. That's great. Thank you for letting me know it's looking good. Fabulous. Good to know. Sometimes it's a bit weird doing a live stream. You're kind of talking into this kind of like void and you're not really sure if it's broadcasting or not. All right, so let's see. Oh, don't forget anything that I mention here, you can buy using my kit.co/sub link. And that's an affiliate link. Anything that you buy is not going to cost you anymore, but it might help me out, which is great. So thank you for that. All right, let's get on with the live stream, and I'll tell you a little bit about what I do. And it's just a bit of a taster, really, just to see if there's a bit of an appetite to see if people are interested in me diving into a bit more depth and maybe creating a series of videos about how I edit. And what I've learned in the last 1.5 years that I've been doing this, which has been a really interesting kind of journey for me. Number one is that I use mobile apps, and I highly recommend using mobile apps if you want to really have a pain-free experience about how you're going to do this. Yeah, the quality might be a little bit lower if you're using a mobile app, but I find it perfectly good for YouTube. I wouldn't use it for commercial. If I did commercial, I've done the odd project, but for me, the usability and the speed factor trumps everything. It's the quality speed dial. I prefer that set towards speed. You might prefer quality, and that's fine. And you may be really slick at Adobe Premiere. I am not really slick at Adobe Premiere. I clunk through it. I can do it, but I don't find it pleasurable. I find it much more useful and easy for me to be doing it on mobile. And that's what I love doing. And I find it that it inspires me to do more rather than actually using like the desktop studio for Insta360 or things like Adobe Premiere. Let me know what you think in the comments about your experience, whether you're desktop based or whether you're mobile app based. I know what I prefer. All right, so the next one, I would say, I'd be really clear on what your story is before you start trying to tell it. What are you trying to tell people? And so what I've learned to do is that I almost go out with a shot list of what I want according to the story that I want to tell. And yeah, it doesn't really work for like casual shooting, and there's a place for that. But if you're really trying to tell and put out a video together that's going to be coming out on YouTube, or you want to share with your family, you need to have that story so you know what shots you need to get. And if you don't get those shots, then you know what you need and you can go back and get it. And if you can't get those shots, then you know where you're going to need some B-roll, and perhaps use something like voiceover, which is really super underrated, I think. Using that B-roll and voiceover to continue the story and act as a bridge, getting from one place of your story to the next. But remember, I think it's really important to show more than tell as much as you can in your stories. So yeah, when I'm planning a video, I'm thinking about what's my intro, what's my 3-act sequence. The meat really is in Act 2, the resolution is in Act 3, the setup is back in Act 1, and then it's kind of like the outro. What are people going to get out of this? What's my summary here? But remember, people tend to switch off once they see the resolution. So really focus on that top end, the cold intro. How are you going to get people's attention? What's the setup? What am I looking at here? What's the meat of the story? And then how is this resolved for this person? What's the end of this story? So that's my storytelling basic setup. All right, yep, super chat's available. I've never used it. I'm just kind of putting this out there just in case anybody feels like clicking that button. All right, so number 3, what do I think is my third tip? I'm just going to show you a little bit of video here of a video that I produced, and then I'm going to talk to you about the importance of research in me being able to have constructed this video. Let me just find the tab that I want, and I will show you what I want you to see. All right, here we go. Okay, you can see here, this is an Insta360 camera that I've got on a very long selfie stick in Hokitika Gorge on the South Island in New Zealand. And that's crapped out. That's no good. All right, so anyway, you got the sort of gist of what it is that I'm trying to do there. What I did before I went there was that I scoured the internet to see what are the sorts of shots that I'm going to need. What are the things that people are looking for if they're wanting to watch a video about this? What are the really key hero images that I want to capture? And then what's the gear that I'm going to need in order to capture those hero images? So it's interesting, in the Hokitika Gorge, in lots of places in New Zealand, you cannot fly a drone. Lots of the sort of drone shots that you might have seen are probably drone shots that have been taken without permits, or drone shots that have taken a long time to set up. And the New Zealand government is now getting stricter, well, before COVID-19 hit anyway, about how people fly drones. And you'll find that maybe in the countries that you're at too. So how are you going to access it? How are you going to get that shot? What equipment will you need? When is it busy? So when are you going to be able to get a shot where there's perhaps not many people there? Or what angle is best where you're going to get nice sunlight as well? And what will you do if there are lots of people there? What's the weather going to be like? So for me, the Insta360 Go is really handy for that. If the weather's not great, it's 10-second waterproof in kind of like light rain and things like that. It's good to grab the odd shot. So really plan and do your research. You can just kind of gather footage as you're going. It probably won't come out as a great video though. So the shot list and the research go together. You have to do those both together if you're going to tell a really good, compelling story when you are making these videos. All right, so the next thing that I want to share with you is choosing music and editing music for emotion, and really thinking about what is it that you're trying to communicate when you're storying, trying to figure out the emotion you're trying to generate in your viewer. And for me, this is fun. So I used to DJ for about 6 years, so I find it fun to choose. I also find it fun to try to edit to the beat. And you would be surprised how long this takes. This is probably the biggest time sink for me. It's incredible how long it can take if you really get into it. But at the same time, it's really satisfying when you can get it right. But I can lose 3-4 hours of an afternoon going into an evening, trying to find the music, trying to set out where the beat structure changes, and then trying to edit my clips so that it changes with transitions or not at those beat change points of view, and also trying to keep it fairly short, and then interspersing that with B-roll and dialogue too in order to keep your story moving. That's something that I've learned, is that actually doing 3 to 4 minutes of music with just changing images, people tend to turn off after about a minute or two maximum. So I need to kind of stop, reset the story, move the story on, and then perhaps another music sequence that comes along there. So that's something that I've learned to do. Music's really important, but you don't want to overdo and make those sections too long. All right, and then the final thing I want to talk about here, I'll just turn that off. The final thing I want to talk about is what I actually use in order to assemble all the clips that I might have generated, either through, my shooting kit is really the iPhone, my Insta360 One X, and then One R now as well, and then the Insta360 Go that I use. Now, I just bought a Sony ZV-1, which I'm going to be picking up tomorrow. I'm quite excited about that. It's probably going to be more of a studio camera. I'm just kind of sorting out the studio behind me. You would normally see these shelves behind me. I'm getting rid of those. I'm trying to go for a much cleaner background now, and maybe changing that up a little bit as I do different sorts of videos. But yeah, you can see the One X and the One R just behind me here as well. I don't tend to use the Insta360 One R app in order to do my video assembling, to create the finished product. I find it too fiddly myself. You can do it, but it's not optimal. I use LumaFusion, and I would highly recommend using LumaFusion. I think it costs about $30 now in the US. You can also buy a little bit of an add-on if you use Final Cut Pro, so you can export out of LumaFusion, take it onto your desktop to finish it off and do some more complex things. But you can do some surprisingly complex things on LumaFusion. Every video that I've put out, bar maybe a couple where I was testing out some 360 video, immersive video kind of like comparisons, where I was looking at LumaFusion versus Adobe Premiere, are done on LumaFusion. It works really well. It has 6 tracks of video, 6 tracks of audio. It renders like lightning compared to desktop. I cannot tell you how quick it is. If I'm rendering, say, like a 8-minute video on LumaFusion, it'll take maybe 5 to 6 minutes, whereas it will take over an hour if I'm trying to do that in Premiere Pro. So if you make a mistake in your edit, you go in and correct it, that's 2 hours gone, at least, if you're trying to do that in Premiere Pro, whereas you could do that in half an hour on LumaFusion. So it's amazing. And for me, again, it's the quality speed trade-off. I'll take speed every time, so long as it hits a minimum quality. And so for me, LumaFusion hits that really, really well for me. The biggest faults of LumaFusion, which I'm hoping they're going to sort out, is that there's limited speed ramping opportunities to really use that kind of effect in your videos. But the worst one is that post-production audio sync is not there. And that's just standard now on all desktop editors that you have. DaVinci Resolve, Adobe Premiere Pro, all of that stuff has post-production audio sync. And you could do a hand clap and all that stuff, but I find it doesn't work that well. And sometimes it renders, and people have been telling me, it renders just a little bit out of sync sometimes too. And that might be the combo of the audio source and the iPhone that I'm using. I'm using an Apogee mic at the moment, but that's going to be changing very soon with the Sony ZV-1. I'm planning on using the Rode Wireless Go in my studio, or maybe another mic attached to that. So that's going to be interesting to see how that works. But yeah, my number one tip would be this last one, I think, would be that LumaFusion rocks. You really need to get LumaFusion if you want to take your mobile editing on iOS to the next level. My bonus tip, I think, that I would offer you is that you need to be prepared to kill your darlings. And what I mean by this is that it's great when you get that killer shot, when it looks good and everything seems to line up, and you watch it on your phone, you watch it on your iPad, and it's just like, oh, this is sweet. It's exactly what I want, but it doesn't fit your story. And you may have a few shots like that, and you're going to have to be really, really, really harsh with yourself and maybe leave out that shot that is the best shot that you got, but it doesn't fit your story. And I've done that. I'm guilty of that. It's really hard to kill your darlings. The shot that is the money shot is the one that you think is the best of all, but it just doesn't fit your story, because it's just jarring when you're watching a video on YouTube and you're like, this is great, but I don't understand where this is going. And what I've noticed when I look at my analytics is that people will watch up to that point where the nice video finishes, and then I do something else and it doesn't fit. It doesn't fit with the cool little shot that I got. It doesn't make sense in the story, and people switch off or people move on to something else. So yeah, people will watch that, but then they will not watch anymore. So if you've got something like that, stick it towards the end and make sure it makes sense in your story as much as you can. But you might actually want to leave it out and perhaps use it for something like Instagram or some other short form where you just kind of like want to show off how great that little shot was and you're showcasing a particular moment. So moments are different from stories. Okay, so moments that you might capture are really good for short form. So you might want to use it if you've got 10,000 subscribers as part of your YouTube stories, but it perhaps doesn't fit well in the overall video story that you're trying to tell. I hope that makes sense for you. That's really, really hard. I find that really, really hard to do. All right, let's have a look and see what next is coming from me. So this week, I've got a few videos planned for you. I'm going to be doing a video, like I said earlier on, you may have missed it, is the firmware update for the One R. So I'll be recording that over the next, won't be today, I'm with the kids today, once I finish this. So it will be on probably Monday, coming out Tuesday, early Tuesday morning on New Zealand time. Then I'll be doing a video looking at the GoPro Hero 9, what we know about that, and then comparing that with this newly updated One R and the pros and cons of that. So that'll be interesting for me to kind of like put that information together. And then finally, next weekend, I'm going to be putting out a video about stabilized footage on your iPhone, no matter what camera you're using, perhaps to edit and to process that. So there are things that you can do, which are kind of like additions to Adobe Premiere Pro. You can get plugins that really stabilize your footage really well, like warp thingy, whatever it's called on Adobe Premiere Pro. What I'm going to be testing is Emulsio, which is an app on iOS which renders incredibly quickly, and it also stabilizes any footage that you import onto your iPhone. But really interestingly, the really wide camera, which is the only unstabilized camera on your iPhone Pro, iPhone 11 Pro, and it can stabilize that footage. And so you actually, you know, this is kind of like that situation where I use a gimbal. I actually find even like the smaller gimbals, like the Osmo Mobile 3, I don't have the Mobile 4, a bit fiddly at times, and sometimes I just don't get it out as much as I probably should. This is a solution on getting that stabilized footage on your iPhone. It works really, really well. So I'll be showing you some results about that. The other thing I'm going to be doing, which I'd love to get your opinion on, is if you hop over to Patreon's Joe Help, you could subscribe to me there. But I also just want you to have a look at that page, because this is going to give you a preview on the rebrand that I'm going to be doing on my website, but also coming out on my YouTube channels as well. So I have this YouTube channel and I have a psychology YouTube channel as well. They're going to be coming under this more overarching branding. So you can get a sneak peek look at it there. And I'd love your opinion on me changing the name of this channel to Useful Tech with Saab Johal rather than just Saab Johal NZ. And that fits into my kind of useful brand, which you'll see more about if you hop over to my Patreon now. All right, thank you, everyone. This is the point now where I can answer anything, any questions that you've got. I'm going to hop back over to the comments and see if there's anything here. Hi, Oni. Nice to see you here, and very friendly of you, Richard, to greet Oni whilst I was busy talking. And thank you, Paulie, from on the FPV side of things. That's really interesting. Actually, I've picked up quite a few people who are watching, definitely, who have FPV drones, and they've picked up on my Insta360 Go videos, and I appreciate you coming to watch on my channel. But it's kind of made me think, and I've asked a couple of people who have commented saying, what's it like flying an FPV drone? Because I don't have a drone at all, never flown one. And they've said it's quite a big learning curve, actually. You have to kind of dedicate quite a lot of time to be able to use one. But it has made me think that maybe I might get one and then stick my Go on it and then try and get a bit of insight as to kind of like what that might be like for you, what the challenges you might have, and maybe try to answer some of the questions that you've been putting to me where I've kind of gone, yeah, sorry, I don't really know. I can't really help. So yeah, I hope that makes sense. So yeah, thank you for everyone who's been watching and continuing to support my channel. It's growing nicely. It's growing slowly, but it's growing consistently. So that's really, really good. And I'm noticing that, lots of people who don't subscribe are also watching my videos and coming back and watching a few more, which is really great for me, really rewarding for me. That's exactly what I'd love to see happening. All right, any questions, anyone? We've got a couple of people still watching, but if not, then I'll probably draw this to a close and go make myself a cup of coffee. I highly recommend that you get yourself a beer or a wine, wherever it is that you are in the world, and keep safe and take care. All right, let's have a look. Oh, Richard, here we go. Can you explain your workflow from raw footage to reframing in the case of the 1X to exporting to an editing app and software? I can do that briefly here, Richard. That might be more of a video series that I might try and put out. But just briefly, from raw footage, what I was doing before the Insta360 One app came out was using my mobile, and I was using the viewfinder a lot. So that's how I did a lot of my footage. So I would do a first pass with my 1X footage using the viewfinder. And I'd watch that through a couple of times and see what were the interesting viewpoints that I would like people to see. And then I would record maybe 2 or 3 passes of that using the viewfinder. And I would actually move around physically in the room. And I love that. It actually engages me back in what I was doing at the time when I was recording the video. So I'm actually kind of using my phone, walking around the room, doing this and dipping up and down and maybe looking up and looking down. So I'm very much doing a physical edit. And then once I've done that a couple of times and got a couple of exports, I might look at things like hyperlapses and time lapses and really making sure I've got nice motion blur transitions going from one place to another for that part of my story, just kind of like speeding through and giving a sense of time. So that's how I was using it. And then I'd be using, sometimes I wouldn't use the viewfinder. I'd go in and I'd use pivot points. If I wanted to do like a big switch from one point of view to another point of view really, really quickly, or if I wanted to do a scan across the environment where somehow the viewfinder wasn't kind of hitting that for me. And so I use pivot points more to be using that. Now, when the 1R app came out and I discovered that actually I could use the 1X footage and process it in the 1R app, I would use things like deep tracking. I found deep tracking probably the most useful thing. I wasn't using the kind of gimmicky stuff, the one-offs or like video effects like Clone Trail and things like that. That really wasn't doing it for me. I was really interested in how it could help me to automate some of the stuff which I was using pivot points to do. So the deep tracking was a little bit of a shortcut, but now I've lost that. it's not that much of a big deal. It just means I need to go back to using pivot points again. But because it's on mobile, I find it really, really quick. I've tried editing on using the Insta360 desktop studio to do that kind of thing. It's fine. I just don't enjoy it that much, and it takes longer. And I just sit there, and it's not. I get bored. Whereas if I'm using pivot points on my phone, or sometimes I'll use my iPad, but probably not so much. I tend to like using the phone more. Yeah, I just prefer using that. So that's roughly what I'm doing there about the raw footage to the reframing in case of the 1X. I use pivot points a lot. I do a couple of runs using the viewfinder sometimes, and then I really think about using those things like hyperlapse in order to communicate a sense of travel or a sense of time. So that's what I'm doing. I hope that answers your question, Richard. Oni, do the Bluetooth mics work better with the 1R now with the new firmware? Well, the new firmware is not out yet, but I heard a rumor that there might be some audio improvements on that. So let's see. I think if we wait until the end of the week, we'll know a little bit more about mics and how they work. I actually have a box. Where is it? I have a box. Hang on just a sec. I have a box here that I need to open, which is from Insta360. And it has got a 1-inch 1R in here. And I've also got an external audio adapter in here as well. So I'm going to be testing that because I actually haven't used that yet. And I'll be testing that with the Rode wireless mic at some point in the next couple of weeks. I've got quite a production schedule here and with the other channel and with my day job as well. So I'll be trying to do that as soon as I can. Thank you, Oni. Right, John, have you heard any more about the Insta360 1X? No, I haven't. There's going to be some stuff coming out soon, I guess, if at all. I'm not really sure. There's rumors around. I haven't heard anything more about that. So we'll wait and see. At the moment, I think the focus is on the 1R side of things. Danny, hey Danny, nice to see you here. Thank you for all your support on the channel. I love chatting with you. I love chatting with everyone. If you want to chat, I'm really up for it. It might take me a day or two to come back to your messages, but I do try to come back to all your messages as much as I can. How did I get into 360 cameras and mobile videography? That's a really, really good question. I was kind of like getting into. So let me go back a sec. So let's see. I was back in the UK, and there was a mobile network there called Orange. So this is back in the early 2000s. And I was using kind of like early video cameras on phones then. And they came out with this kind of like bespoke thing called the SPV, Sound Pictures Video. And I bought that. And I was using that to create content. And then I was sharing that, I think, on my really basic website then. And Orange, who were the provider who actually made this phone as well. They contracted some, I think it might have been a French provider, constructor, to do it. They invited me to join their kind of like tech group where they would send or hold focus groups to figure out what was going on with their product, what was working with it, what was not working with it. And so, yeah, that was really cool. I really enjoyed that. And then I moved to New Zealand back in 2005. So I kind of lost those connections that I had, and the internet was very different to what it is now then. So it's kind of hard to keep up with that. But the other thing that I had at that time was something called the Sony Ruvi. Now, I don't know if anybody knows this, but it was a kind of like a really small tape-based camcorder. Now, it only took stills at like 640 by 480 or something like that. And but the video was okay. It wasn't too bad. I've still got some of those stills. I don't have any of that video anymore. And I did some really big trips, like going to India and going to see my family there for the first time since I was 11. And I took it when I turned 30. And I went and I took that to India, and I got some really, really cool shots there. So yeah, I've been into kind of like video and photography using cameras, using cell phones for a long time. But then the 360 moment actually was a Peter McKinnon video. Everybody watches Peter McKinnon, but it was a particular one where he was looking at the 1X. And I never really heard of 360 cameras. And then this was a jaw-dropping moment for me, because I was like, 360 video, not really into the immersive side of stuff. It's cool and everything, but like I find it a little bit like slow. But then I discovered about reframing and the idea that you could take video of everything all at the same time and then choose your point of view afterwards. That for me was the killer moment. And I was looking at that time, I was kind of like mucking around, very early stages of my YouTube channel. If you look back on my YouTube channel, you'll see it's all over the place. I don't really know what I'm doing. I'm just kind of making videos and just trying to learn how to make videos on YouTube. This then became my thing. I was like, right, Insta360 looked like they have a really, really good camera. And at that point, there really wasn't anything. There was the Samsung one, there was a couple of others, but Insta360 was miles ahead as far as I could see. And it wasn't just the camera, it was the AI. And I guess I've always been interested in tech and AI and user interfaces. And so that's why, for me, Insta360 is a really interesting, is in a really interesting place, because it's the AI, it's the user interface, plus the technology of the actual camera itself. So for me, that's the sweet spot. And that's where my channel, I think, is going. It's that user experience, trying to make the complicated more simple. And I'm really interested in companies and products that make complicated things simple for you to get really nice footage or really nice experiences, whatever that product is, which is why I have the Apple Watch. It took me ages to kind of convince myself to get this. Now I've got it. I love it. It's why all of my stuff is kind of like mostly based on Apple. It's why I like really nicely designed things like this Zoom recorder. It captures like surround sound, but look, it's tiny, it's small, and it runs on 2 AA batteries. This thing is fantastic. So yes, the design aesthetic, it's the UI, and it's what it is that you can get out of it simply. I hope that answers you, Danny. That's kind of like where I'm going to. Ani, you're welcome. No problem at all. I love the questions. I love talking here. Yeah, Danny. Yeah, you know the one, right? Yeah, totally mystified as to how he got the shot. Yeah, I had that moment as well of like, what the actual is going on here? I loved it. I loved it. Yeah, Richard, I agree. That was my eureka moment. Yeah, absolutely agree with you. Once I got my head around the possibilities, and even now, I still really don't. I'm discovering things all the time, which is what I love about the 360 camera kind of genre, is that I'm discovering new ways of using it all the time. And I think for me, the next kind of stage might be back to the audio, and I'm discovering how important audio is to get to really immerse people in story. I knew this all the time, but I'm discovering how to use it more. And so the GoPro Max, actually, I think, the reason why I considered it, I didn't actually get one, but the reason why I considered it, I still look for it on the secondhand market in case I can get a cheap one, is the mics. And I'm really interested to see what that experience is like, to really intensify that audio with 360, even reframe footage, so that you can hear stuff that's coming from behind, even though you're looking forwards, and then suddenly there's a reframe to what's going on behind you. So you're almost like giving your audience clues as to what's coming next through the audio. Now you can do that with kind of like artificial audio that you kind of like put onto your video tracks. But yeah, to actually capture that live, I think would be really, really interesting. Hey, Danny. Yes, the Casey Neistat one on the airplane. Yeah, I've got that one. I've watched that one, and I've used that as well. And the looks that the attendants give you in New Zealand are really quite funny, because I've caught them smiling at me, and then as I walk away, they look at each other and go, "What the hell is he doing?" And so you can see the conversations that their attendants are having about you carrying a 360 camera onto a plane on a pole. That's really quite interesting. But I've never been stopped. Everyone's really cool about me using it here. But the Insta360 Go is a little bit more discreet. Oh, Danny again. Initially very skeptical of the Insta360 Go. Oh, cool. That's really cool. I love it when I get messages like this, where actually my videos have made a difference and people have made decisions as a result of watching some of my videos. That's very cool, Danny. I love it. I've actually, my 1 month video, I was a little bit skeptical. I was kind of like, I'm not really using it so much. But you'll see in my 6 month video that I'm actually find myself using it more and more. It's here, right here on my desktop. So on my desk, so I don't forget to take it. And I've the battery might be drained now, actually, so at least I'll charge it up now. I love it. I love having it as my backup camera. It used to be my Hero 7. I'll still take my Hero 7 out if I'm going out for a few days as my backup, because I've got a few spare batteries for that as well. But my Go is my backup. It's the thing that I've got quickly that I can do, which is less obtrusive than using my phone to film, because often people change their behavior when you pull your phone out and you're pointing at them. Whereas the Go, you can have it even on, I really like continuous interval for just capturing moments that you can use to fill in and tell your story. I love that. Let's see. Here we go. Oh, Richard, I've got a new PC. Can you recommend a decent editing package? Is Adobe Premiere Elements as opposed to Pro a worthwhile investment? Do you know, I don't know. I did look at Premiere Elements for a while, and then I decided against it. I thought it probably wasn't worth it for what I wanted to do, or I might end up frustrated with it. What I do hear from a lot of people is that DaVinci Resolve is really worth considering. And I think that the learning curve for DaVinci Resolve has got easier from what I've heard. And there are some much better tutorials out there that are available, and it's free. So that's a consideration. You're not going to be paying a monthly subscription. You can pay for the higher level product, but for most people, they're going to be okay with what DaVinci Resolve is offering for free. So I would say have a look at that as a possible solution. And yeah, it looks a little bit scary in terms of the interface, but have a look at some of the how-tos and just play with that for a while before you perhaps invest into the Adobe system. The problem I have with Adobe is that once you're in that system, it's really hard to get out. I've still got photos tied up in Lightroom catalogs, which I've kind of like, I'm trying to get out of. And I've still not figured out whether I've got everything that I need extracted out of those. So I have a problem with the Adobe ecosystem in that once you're in, it's really hard to get out. I have found anyway. I may just be doing it wrong. So yeah, I'd be wary about that. Here we go. I know you don't like Pro, but I want the option of combining clips from various sources. You can do that with LumaFusion. That's not a problem. You can import stuff, B-roll from wherever you've got, and you can bring it into LumaFusion and you can stick it on your timeline and use it. You can color grade, you can do color corrections, you can use LUTs. There's a lot that you can do on LumaFusion, which I think will surprise people using that on iOS. To be honest, I don't use it on my phone. I do that work on my iPad. And it's the, I haven't got it here, it's upstairs. It's the 11-inch iPad that came out 2 years ago. So it's not like a really, really super flash new iPad, although I am thinking about getting the iPad Pro when it's released this year, a new one, a bigger one, for me to carry around and do that editing with, because my editing is getting a little bit more intense. But yeah, I do love being able to use LumaFusion on my iPad. That for me is, again, the sweet spot, quality, speed, but also big enough for me to be able to actually see what's going on. Yeah, Danny. I've heard Final Cut is good. I was thinking about making the switch over to Final Cut Pro. I'm still possibly thinking about it. It's not that expensive. It is an investment. I've never looked into doing 360 footage on the Final Cut Pro. I guess for me, it's like if you were going to use Adobe, if you were going to use a desktop package, then the plugin that Insta360 provides for Adobe Premiere kind of would be the sweetener for me to be able to kind of use that straight away with Adobe Premiere. I'm not sure whether or how easy it would be for you to do that. You'd have to use Desktop Studio and then go into Final Cut Pro, I think. So it means two packages that I'll have to use together rather than just one and using Adobe Premiere Pro. So I see why people use Adobe Premiere Pro for their Insta360 kind of footage for the plugin. For general 360 footage, I'd have to look into it. You sound like you know a bit about it. So yeah, interesting. No problem, Richard. Yeah, I've had a few people recommend that I look into it as well. And they've said, yeah, it used to be really hard, but it's easier now. Awesome. Thank you, Danny. That's really good to know. And I'm sure other people watching this on replay would like to know this as well. 360 reframing on Final Cut is as good as it gets, and you need no other plugins, all native. That's a game changer for many people. I'm sure many people don't know that. So many people who have Macs would be really interested in that information. All right, cool. Well, Danny, Richard, thank you very much for being here and having that chat with me. If there's anything else, my coffee's empty. I probably need to get another one. I had to get up just before 6 o'clock with our 1-year-old. This morning it was my turn to get up early. My wife was having a wee bit of a lie-in before I was preparing for this live stream today. So yeah, there's my 5 tips. There's my bonus tip. The rebrand is available here on Patreon if you want to go and have a quick look at that. Is there anything else that I needed to tell you? No, that's probably about it. If you are looking at buying any of the cameras that I've mentioned, you can go through my affiliate link. If you're watching this on replay, this is where you go. I will also stick in a link for the let's get rid of that, for the GoPro Hero 9 as well when it becomes available. And you can buy that through Amazon in the locality of the world wherever you are located. In the meantime, thank you very much, Danny, Richard, anybody else who's been watching, Oni as well, Paulie, Lee, FPV. Thank you, everyone. This has been using StreamYard. I've not used StreamYard before. I actually quite like it. I might use Ecamm Live. If you have any suggestions as to the sort of live stream software that I could be using on a Mac or on mobile, that would be really interesting to hear from you as well. All right, everyone, thanks so much for watching. Thanks so much for being here. Have a great rest of your weekend and keep safe out there. It's still really, really dangerous. Look after yourself and look after your loved ones too. Over and out. See you now. Bye.